What's up, everybody? Shawn here with another Live to Roll. We're coming at you a few minutes early today. We got to make sure we finish a little bit before 4:30 today. So, gonna have a great show for you guys. Real quickly, just wanted to shout out and thank our sponsors, Mobility Professionals and Urology Professionals. And we will shout them out again at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. So let's get into some quick introductions. My name is Shawn Fluke. I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic from a snowboarding accident 21 years ago. Bobby, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Bobby Rohan, C56 as well, right along with Shawn. A few more years, 36 years from a bicycle accident. And enough about us two numbskulls. Let's move it over to our guest. We have a real special guest today. Can't wait to dive in and learn a little bit more about Mia and her company, Philomax, right? Did I say
Hello, math.
Philomath? I said Mac, but Philomath.
Close, close
Welcome.
enough.
Yeah, so Mia, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? And for now, if you want, just give a quick introduction, and then we will get a little bit more into your story um, and what you guys do.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Natalia. I am a T9 complete spinal cord injury, and I am the founder and president of Philomath Center, which is a nonprofit organization that serves individuals with spinal cord injuries here in California.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining us today. I mean, I really appreciate you coming on. And oops, so why don't you just give a little bit of background before we get into like all the stuff that you guys do with Philomath and stuff? Why don't we just kind of talk a little bit about, if you're comfortable with telling a little bit about your story? I know you're not super recently injured, but you're just in the past like decade or so, and you kind of just like anything you are comfortable sharing about that and your journey and kind of how that started and some of the struggles you've dealt with.
Yeah, of course, of course. So straight out of high school, I had this crazy idea, this dream that I wanted to become a firefighter EMT. So that's exactly what I did. I got to respond to fires, medical calls, traffic collisions, everything in between. Some things that I may have not wanted to see, but I loved every minute of it. And I did that for 2 years before moving back to my hometown here in Fresno, California. And that was a kickstart of my entrepreneurship journey. Little did I know. Because of the fact that I was put in a leadership position and I was always having to speak in front of people. And so I moved back to Fresno and I transferred departments. I was going through this other fire academy, and midway, I was hiking with a cousin off duty, and I ended up tumbling 50 feet down this mountainside in Sequoia. So I had, when I had fell off the cliff, there was a lot that kind of played out, but the first experience that I had to do with presence. Because in the time that I'm falling, it's almost as if time didn't exist or time stopped just for me. And so that's where the awakening started to happen as to there's a lot more to life. That was kind of the beginning and got a little taste of it. And after that, I got flown by a CHP helicopter to the nearest level 1 trauma center, which is here in Fresno, downtown Community Regional Medical Center. And hearing that news, drifting in and out of consciousness, but then hearing the news later on that I won't be able to walk again, I completely disassociated. I disassociated with my reality. Anything after that the neurosurgeon has said, I wasn't paying attention, and I'm pretty sure you guys can relate as well. And I still had to go through an identity shift, and there's been nothing but identity shifts since then that I now have awareness on when it comes to grieving the death of my current identity. And little by little, all of this was building up to starting the business, starting the organization. I actually have two businesses. I have a LLC, which is my motivational speaking business. I travel nationwide giving presentations on identity shifts. And then I have my nonprofit. So those two kind of go hand in hand, but they both are tied to my story and having gone from this super active type of person, firefighter, very outdoorsy, this adrenaline junkie, and have that completely stripped of me, I knew that there was more to life. And when I say that there's been identity shifts that's been happening, back to back, it has. And I realized that the person I'm stepping into, it's a shift, but I, at the time, didn't yet identify with who I could be. And that's kind of where Philomath does come into play, because I am now at this comfortable position in my life where I am okay with where I'm at. I'm my own boss. I just run my two businesses. My speaking business is my primary source of income. I have a lot of little side gigs aside from that. And then I have my nonprofit that doesn't pay me, but I love giving back. And that was the whole goal, starting the nonprofit. And to help others get here as well. That's our main goal as an organization, is to help people get back to their independence. So that's kind of how I had this idea of like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. Let's help other entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, because there's so many limitations when it comes to getting back into the workplace.
Yeah, no, there is, and that's one of the things I think a lot of people face when with an injury. I feel like, especially if you are a little bit younger in life, you don't like maybe have a real established career, or you had a career that was physical, like yourself, um, and you're just there's no possible way of returning to something like that. So you really have to make that shift. Because like for both Bobby and I were both young when we got injured. Bobby was 17, right, Bobby? And I was just had turned 21. Um, it and it definitely is that shift of like, because I was like you, I got hurt snowboarding. I was an adrenaline junkie. I grew up skating, snowboarding, like wakeboarding, riding bikes. Like I basically anything outdoors, extreme stuff. Like I loved that. That was how I found enjoyment and stuff. So to become a quadriplegic that in the hospital couldn't even feed myself because my hands and arms didn't work was a hell of a change. That shift, that identity shift, like you talked about, is a major struggle, or was a major struggle for a couple years for me. And I was fortunate enough to have somebody like Bobby who came to my hospital room, and kind of gave me a glimmer of hope. But even at that, I still went home not in a very good mental space, and like not really ready to like. You seem pretty quickly able to like make that shift. It seems like like you're very mentally strong. How
Well
long?
adjusted.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that adjustment. Like, how long did that take for you? Was there really a time like that where you were just you did
There
struggle?
was, yeah, there was. And honestly, I kind of took the hard route. I turned towards more depression and suicidal tendencies, and that kind of lit a fire under my butt after I put myself back in the hospital after an intentional overdose. So that was the kickstart of it. So my 1 year anniversary, my life day, I ended up intentionally overdosing because I felt like I was hitting so many roadblocks. And depression is something that I was actually diagnosed with before my accident. So when my accident hit, it was just like rock bottom. But once you get there, you can't go any lower than that. So from that point on, it was up. And yeah, that's why I say I took the hard route, because I was already going down that depression path due to some other traumas in my life. And then so when I had my accident, it was just like I'm hitting a wall. But when I was in the hospital for the second time for the overdose now, there was a nurse that had asked me a very simple question. And at the time, like 6 to 7 months after I was released from the hospital, I got picked up by Fresno Fire Investigations Unit. So I still stuck in the fire service for a little bit longer until the pandemic. But when the nurse, after I'm laying on this hospital bed and she's like, "Where do you work?" I don't want her to call my fire chief and say, "Hey, this kid you just hired is mentally unstable." So something inside of me shifted and how I saw myself and who I needed to be. So I realized at that moment, as I'm laying there, if I pass all these mental evaluations to go home, I knew I had to do something different. the way that I was living wasn't living at all. It was barely existing. In fact, I didn't even want to do that. So after my 1 year anniversary, I told myself I'm going to try. I'm going to even practice transfers on my own, little by little, just get back to my independence. And so since then, don't get me wrong, I still have bad days. Everyone does, but it's not like the depression that I experienced back then. I've kind of kept myself from going back that route, because I trusted my intuition when it came to my speaking engagements. Eventually, I left the fire department, went all in with my business, no plan B, burned all the boats. Was like, I hope I don't fail. And then the pandemic hit, um, and I had to refund a lot of events, but I stayed afloat, kept doing webinars, and kept my business afloat. And yeah, I just pretty much made it through all of that, telling myself I have to keep trying, I have to keep trying, I have to keep trying. Even if I fail, I'm gonna fail forward. So yeah, I would say it's about, I'm gonna hit 8 years in September of being in a chair. So I would say 6 to 7 years of, I guess, having a more optimistic mindset.
Yeah.
What made it finally like? I mean, was it just them knowing they're going to call your fire chief? I mean, what? I mean, here you are, a year in, accidental overdose. I'm sure you didn't come out going, "All right," or was it that I got to just change? I got this is BS. I can't. I got to make a decision right here, right now to move forward? Or was there another spark, or was it that somebody saying, I'm going to call your chief? And that was probably one of your most, you know, one of your biggest fears is not to let anyone know how you were down. What made it turn?
Yeah, it was more so of looking at myself and say, this is dumb. Why, like, life's already sucks. Why am I gonna make it even worse? But when I was asked, where do you work, all that shame and guilt kicked in, and I feel like that's what ate me alive. Of like, what the hell are you doing? So I looked at myself very differently that day. Just her asking a simple question. I am one that, I will admit, I like to suffer in silence. But when she had asked me where I worked, in my mind, I didn't want her to call my chief because I was just given this opportunity to get back to life. And here I am just saying, F it, I'm gonna give up. And so that was that internal shift that was like, what the hell are you doing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're only making your life worse. The more that you focus on this, and the more that you're putting yourself down, like, of course you're gonna feel stuck. That's why you're hitting a wall. So it was that conversation that I had with myself that, um, I guess, allowed me to look at life a little bit differently. It wasn't easy even following that, but that was the shift. That was the epiphany moment of like, you need to do something different.
Mm-hmm. Was it easy to kick the stuff, or it was just kind of a occasional thing to help you put you over that edge, or was it hard to get out over that part first?
Um, it wasn't as hard to get over that part after I had already intentionally overdosed. I think from that 1 year, I mean, I think we all agreed the first year is always hell.
Yeah.
I think everyone handles it very differently. Some people, it's not that bad. Some people suppress it. There's others that do tend to get very depressed. I think it's all a spectrum as to how somebody handles their traumas. But for me, that whole year was hell. And so when I had that epiphany moment, it was like a kind of a quick turnaround for me. But little by little, um, I don't want to say I haven't experienced depression since then. It's just not to that extent. So even when I have bad days, I kind of talk to myself of like, becoming more aware as to, okay, why are you feeling the way that you feel? How are you talking to yourself now? So
Mhm.
even the years to follow, I mean, up until like last year, I had to watch how I talk to myself because sometimes I tend to get really, like, I'm really hard on myself, but that's a pro and a con.
Yeah.
Because when I set my eye on something, I'm so hard on myself. It's like you don't have any other choice but to get there. As for when I was depressed, it was the same thing. I was hard on myself. So I'm kind of learning how to channel that energy, I guess you can say.
That's
No,
good.
that's really good. Yeah, that is, and that's one of the hardest things is to channel that because there's, if anybody is living their life after like a spinal cord injury or any disability and says that they never have any down days of depression, the, there might be there's something more to that. There's something wrong. That's not healthy. It is healthy to have down days. Like everybody's going to experience that, whether you have a disability or not. Able body, you know, you're there's no possible way to that's more of like a toxic positivity if you are in a positive space 100% of the time. So I think that's healthy to experience all those highs, all those lows. We've talked about that on the show a lot. Like if you're having a down day, you're having a rough day, like it's okay. You can accept that. Be like, all right, this day sucks. Like just don't let that become your existence, your life. You move on. You can, that day sucks. You can chalk it up to a crappy day, wake up the next day, fresh start, fresh day, you know, new mindset. So that's kind of something we've talked about a lot here. Um, but yeah, and also in the chat, Leah mentioned adding some stuff, some resources for depression and suicide and stuff. So I will try to add some of those because those are important all the time for people. If anybody is struggling with anything like that, so try to add some of those links down below as well. So yeah, from there, after you kind of did start doing, I actually have a question. This is somewhat even of a personal question because I am curious on kind of doing some somewhat similar things. But how did you first get into being a public speaker? Did you do anything like? Did you take a class, a course, anything? Did you just feel confident in your speaking ability and kind of just start getting gigs, or how did that work for you to get that started to start your business?
It came naturally when I was still working in investigations with Fresno Fire. That's where I was getting asked to speak at all of these different places, sharing my story. And I had a friend that was a burn nurse, and she was like, "Hey, you know, you can get paid to do that." And I was like, "What, to talk? Like, you're crazy." I was like, she had told me, she was like, "No, they actually make really good money." She's like, "You should look into it." And I did, and I was like, oh, "Okay, I can make a living off of this." And so after that, I started to do some research. I got mentorship through a variety of different places. I got business mentorship from a friend of mine who owns the Central Cal Adaptive Sports Center in Shaver, which is about an hour away from Fresno. He was my first business mentor, and then I joined. I got mentorship from Tony Robbins, and I went through that whole program. That was very costly, but I was so dedicated and determined to finish it, and that's kind of where I started to, I guess, hone in on my speaking skills, because I knew that I felt like I already articulated my words well, but I didn't know exactly how to share my story and also teach. And I think that's always good to, even now I learned that when I do present at a business, it's more so of like sharing my story and then teaching so that they have something to leave with. And so I kind of tie it in. It's a lot of personal development when it comes to the presentations I do. And once I went through that course, I was already doing bigger gigs. So I was already charging. I charged, I mean, it was like $500 for speaking for 30 minutes. And for me, that was a lot. Yeah. As a beginner speaker, you can actually make way more, but at the time I didn't know that. So I was like, $500, that's a lot. I'm going to do a lot of these small gigs. And I ended up turning it into actual business from that point on, because I was starting to make good money doing it.
Awesome. No, that's really cool. Yeah. Cause yeah, I've done stuff at like schools, for like small, like, but not like colleges, like there's a Loma Linda University has like a prosthetics and orthotics, you know, program and stuff. And they do a thing on spinal cord injury and disability and stuff. So they come have me speak every semester or whatever to the class, and stuff like that. And yeah, they get a little bit of money. There's like a stipend involved and stuff, but yeah, that's cool that you're, just kind of started with that and just knew that was kind of something that you could do and just took off with it. That's really incredible. It's a great.
Do you happen to be a life coach as well?
Yes, yeah. I do personal development coaching aside from my presentations.
Okay, yeah, that's what And so, what's all involved in that? Is that under your LLC or the Philomath?
Yeah, they're both under my LLC. When it comes to anything personal development, that's all through my LLC. And then Philomath, we have a variety of things that we do. We do provide mentorship, but it's not so much just life coaching. It's geared towards bridging the gap between where you're at and what you're trying to do, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. So
So yeah, tell
entrepreneurships.
us. Yeah, why don't we start at the beginning and tell us a little bit about Philomath?
Yeah, so Philomath, we are a 501c3 organization, a nonprofit organization that serves individuals with spinal cord injuries, helping individuals get back to life and get back into the workplace. So we right now are offering 3 different grants. One grant cycle just recently closed, and we just awarded 3 of our grantees within the past week. And that one's for entrepreneurship. So that first grant is called our Visionary Award. We have 2 other grants that we also will be opening. But this first cycle that we opened was for entrepreneurs. So those that are looking to get into entrepreneurship or they're already in the early stages of a startup. And so with that, not only do we provide micro grants for them to put towards their business, but we also provide that mentorship. And that comes with a lot of my experience of having failed many times within the past few years of having my LLC. And now I can help gear them, provide some advice as to, okay, this is what you got to do. These are the steps to get started. I have a very organized, strategic, step-by-step process as to um, how they can get going depending on their business structure. So whether they want to start an LLC, whether they want to just be a sole proprietor and do more freelance as an individual, or if they want to start a nonprofit.
That's
Wow.
really cool. That is great that you offer all that stuff.
And
And
where did the grant money come from? From fundraising, or do you actually doing grant writing and all that fun and not so fun stuff?
We are still working on the grant writing, but right now our funds are mostly from friends and family. And we had our very first fundraiser in March called Beyond Boundaries. It was a here in Fresno in-person event, only a few hours, super short event, but we were able to raise enough money to get the grants going. So I actually just established Philomath Center October 1st of last year. So we got this going pretty fast, and we're able to already give out 3 grants, micro grants. And so we want to keep those funds coming in, more donations coming in, and then work more towards all the grant writing and all the not so fun stuff next. And that way we can get more funds in.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. It's hard to get it out there, to get
Yeah.
those grants. Yeah,
yeah,
most
Bobby
definitely.
definitely knows a lot about that stuff. He's been doing grants and things with nonprofits for a long time.
Too many years. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that
And to go back to your public speaking, does that play a role in the Philomath with the entrepreneurship of your training? I mean, I always see it, and I don't know if you did. I did Toastmasters for 10 years, uh, to and that really paid off to be a leader at work, to be a leader in life, basically, to being the supervisor. You got to stand up there strong and confident. Does that, and I would imagine somebody who is starting an entrepreneurship or a business of any type, you got to stand up strong. You gotta know when you're going to get knocked down and to get back up, and how to speak, at that level to get your word across, as well as your business.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it does come down to identity. Like, yes, I go and I present on identity, but it's what I be. I guess when it comes to self awareness, I realized that the thing that was holding me back was the identity of showing up like a leader, seeing myself no different than those that are in that room. I do present to a lot of businesses. I'm actually doing a presentation after this at 5:30. So, and that's to a whole bunch of um, philanthropists of the hospital. So
Oh,
big
wow.
people, big names. And regardless of if they're executives, whether they're business owners, or even if it's just employees, I always try to help them bridge that gap, because how you show up, that's your whole energy, that's your aura, and that's how, if whether or not people are going to listen to you. So even when it comes to those entrepreneurs that um, apply for our grant, I've met a few friends that they're like, hey, I really want to start this business, but I'm scared. And that's okay to accept the fact that's where you're at right now. But it's because
Hmm.
you don't yet identify with the person you could be. And so that's where the mentorship does come in hand of like, okay, if I take out all the guesswork and you have somebody, I don't want to say holding your hand to help you, okay, do step one first, do step two. But once you take the guesswork out of it, it makes somebody feel more confident. And once they've already accomplished those things, maybe they accomplished the first three steps, now they're on to step 4 through 6. Once they do that little by little, they're less anxious. They show up better, not only for their business, but also for themselves, and thinking and feeling and believing, okay, I'm really going after my dream now. There's no turning back. And
Hmm.
so that's where, as an organization, we do use some of my experience with my LLC, because we try to help people take out all the imposter syndrome, all the scarcity of like, okay, you can do this. You may not have the resources, but at some point you have to be resourceful, and you were by applying for our grant. Now we're here to help you be successful as much as possible.
Hmm.
And that it's going to come down to your identity. It doesn't matter if you're in a chair or not. Just in general, how you show up for the world, how you perceive yourself, it all comes down to identity. Identity is tied to everything we'll create in life. Your business, your income, even you have certain beliefs wrapped around money. How you grew up, you have certain beliefs wrapped around money. If you grew up middle class, you have certain beliefs wrapped around money. If you grew up in a higher class household, then you still have certain beliefs wrapped around money. So those blocks or open doors, depending on how you grew up in your traumas, all those things are playing out. That's how you're going to perceive the world. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's the same thing. Whether it's starting your own business, whether it's just moving through life, it's the same concept. Still comes down to identity.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Being that confident person, um, it really pays off. I mean, I know as much as like thinking like, how am I going to get a job? I was, disabled, quadriplegic. I'm in college with, trying to get just learning about my dyslexia that I had all my life that I finally got discovered later in life. And I went into a job interview, and I just remember him saying, well, what can you do? And I'm like, I don't know what I can do, but if you hire me, you're not going to regret it. I guarantee you that. And he hired me. And, a year later, I was doing sales and making good money. And in 2 years, I was top sales guy, and had major accounts of, all these hospitals and um, children's services that I had to go in and sell chairs and bring the chairs in myself. And here I am coming in with a load of van. But it's about your confidence. You're going in you know, and trust me, I go home scared as crud every night. Just like, how am I going to do this? You know, I can barely, barely read, without stuttering and all this. But, I just think, somewhere along, and I think a lot of it is athletics. And it sounds like you had a very athletic background, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that also pays off with confidence.
Yeah, I think staying as fit as possible too, even allows you to be more independent. So when I had that epiphany moment too, and telling myself I'm going to do different, I'm going to try, even if it's just to transfer by myself or shower by myself or just do the little things by myself. Because at the time, my mom was my primary caregiver. And so shout out to mom, because mom really did help me through really tough times, even the depression. Um, but little by little, I did tell myself, okay, I had to do this for myself. And so I started to shred more weight, started to get in better shape. Now transfers were a lot easier. So
Hmm.
I think the physical aspect does play a part, and that's something. Yeah, I did have experience, staying or being as active as I was before my injury, but when it came to that transition, now being in a chair, I had to tell myself there's still a lot more I can do. So when you say like, what can't I do when you got that job, and my mind was like, okay, that is the right mindset to have. Maybe say it a little bit different and watch how your transactional words that you use in your sentence say, okay, what can't I do? That comes off as more confident too of like, what can't I do? I'm gonna try, even if I have to adapt and overcome or modify. So what can't I do? Yeah, I may not be able to walk, but what can't I do? Because I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna find a way to use a walk or do whatever I gotta do. You know what I mean? So that plays a major role of like staying fit, staying as independent as you possibly can, pushing your own boundaries in a safe manner, safe environment, but putting yourself out there because once you even physically, I guess, progress, you'll look at yourself more confident of like, I can do this. If I can transfer on my own, I can drive on my own. It's that
Yeah,
I can.
that's the
Having
first.
that mindset moving forward,
Yep.
super important.
Yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. Like when meeting newer injuries and stuff, and doing some like more peer mentoring stuff locally, like you have to start with the first step, like the independence thing. Like you can't just think I need to be able to drive, do everything on my own. I'm gonna fully be independent. Like that you do, but that's down the road. You need to start with like if it is transferring, like once you get that, then like you said, that opens up, oh, driving is now a possibility. Now you can do your own care typically on your own because you can transfer it off, like it really starts like it's just step by step. You have to take those baby steps and you can't skip, you can't jump ahead. Like it takes the work. And I think that's part of what builds the confidence is you put in the work, you put in the time, you put in all these things. And like with disability, you become confident, you become in yourself and your abilities. And that can translate mentally to your confidence in daily life, doing stuff, like applying for a job, anything like that. I feel like it all translates and goes forward. It's just that mentality.
Mhm.
Exactly. And when it comes to Philomath Center, that's kind of where we're helping people see that within themselves as well. Because those that they have that fire, maybe they are already driving, they're trying to get back into work. We also have a grant that we're going to be opening for that as well to not only just the entrepreneurship one, our visionary award, but we have two other ones. So if somebody wants to go back to work, we're going to have open a grant for that, and then also for those to advance in their career. So once you've already gotten yourself to a point in your life of like, I want to try, I want to do more, and that's where we kind of come into play. So that way we can provide those resources that when there wasn't yet a resource here in the Valley, here in California, I mean, there's Triumph Foundation that's fairly similar. I think that would be the closest to what we're doing in a way. But we're trying to help people. Okay, if you have that will already, and you're already trying, you're already doing things on your own, you're trying to get back to your independence. How can we help or better serve you to help get you there? So that's why we have these three grants for three different things: the entrepreneurship, returning to work, advancing in the career. But it's once you've already, if we were to take the ideal candidate that is already putting in the work to get there, then why won't we help them? As for if there's somebody that's like, oh, I kind of want to do this, but I'm not sure. Sorry, maybe we're not ready for you, or maybe you're not ready for us, because there's going to be some work that you would have to do on your end rather than us just be like, yeah, here's some money, there you go, good luck. We don't know where that's going to go. But if
Mhm.
somebody is genuinely putting in the work, we're going to meet them halfway.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Is we want to meet those halfway that we know have the drive, they have the ambition, they're trying. They may not have the resources yet, but that's what we're here for. We're here to help those that are putting in that work on their own journey, healing their own traumas, healing their, even looking at themselves different, working on that identity, their own mindset to be able to say, okay, I can do this.
And I would imagine this can be done for anybody in any area, state, out of state. They don't have to be in the Fresno area.
Yeah, so right now our organization is only serving California, but we do hope to expand. Um, but as for mentorship, that's pretty much open to everyone. We're going to be even uh, hopefully fairly soon here doing some entrepreneurship webinars that will be virtual. So that's going to be open to everyone, the general public as well.
Okay, that's what I was just going to ask you that because Leah had asked that in the chat. Will Philomath Center have any webinars or anything open to the public coming up? So thank you for answering that. You guys will be doing stuff like that coming up. And then I was going to see, so as you guys do grow and, funding grows and the organization grows and your everything, do you plan to maybe just stick to those same 3 grants but give like more of them a year, or make them a little bit bigger? How do you envision the growth for the Philomath Center?
We definitely want to make them bigger, build on what we already have, but there is no cap as to what we can do. So there's no determining, okay, we're just going to stick with these 3 different grants and not have any other resources. I think there's an endless amount of possibilities of things we can do, things we can create, but we do want to build stronger foundations as to what we already have established. So even providing more money for the Entrepreneurship Visionary Award, we want to be able to give maybe up to 2,000 next. Right now, they can apply for up to 1,000 in their micro grants right now, but we eventually do want to offer more.
Yeah, no, that's really, really cool, really great.
And if somebody wanted to get more information, they're here in the Southern California or California area. Where can they find you?
Philomathcenter.org.
And we do have that link in the description below. If anybody does want to check out the website, you guys can check out the grant process. And then we also have Mia's website as well linked down, and the Instagram. So make sure to check all that stuff out and follow as well. So
Thank you guys. Thank you.
and is that
Yeah,
the
no
best way to
problem.
get info, is the website, or can people even message you on Instagram or anything like that if they have questions about applying, something like that?
Yeah, they can reach out in any way. Our website has most of the information, but if they have questions on that, they can always slide in my DMs. If you have any questions on, either if it's personal development or entrepreneurship, feel free to always message me. I will put you on free game. My whole goal is to help as many people as I possibly can. So that was the whole reason of starting the nonprofit. Although I don't pay myself through that, the whole goal is to help people. So any way I can help, send me a DM, hit me up on Instagram. You can even find me on Facebook if you wanted to, or my website, Philomath's website, however.
Awesome. No,
That's
that's
great.
great information. And Rob put in there that you're doing great work. I think he meant to have an exclamation mark instead of question mark, but I'm pretty sure Rob. But
Thank you,
yeah,
thank
no,
you.
they are doing great work.
So when you're not into your big entrepreneurship and this big center that you're growing each and every day, what are you out there? Are you playing sports? What are you doing? Are you back to maybe even hiking? Because I know up in Fresno there's some beautiful areas up there, and they do have some wheelchair accessible places up there. So what are you doing when you're not in full work mode?
Ooh, that's a good question because when am I not working? No,
Yeah.
so for the most part, I'm a homebody, but I love getting out in nature. So if it's not in nature, I'm at the gym. So I'm always working out. I pretty much go every day whenever I can fit it in, even if it's just 30 minutes or 2 hours. I'm always at the gym. I love being home, spending time with my 2 fur babies. I have a dog and a cat. But I'll be home
Mhm.
reading, listening to music. Just I love my solitude, but I also balance with spending time with friends and family. So every so often I'll get out, and I don't drink or smoke, so I don't really party or go to clubs or anything like that. But I do love dancing, so
Nice.
we'll
Yeah.
occasionally go dancing with some friends. That's something that I was a dancer. I used to battle people at parties before my accident, so I still
Uh,
dance. I still dance, just different way. So yeah,
When
that's
you
that's
say
what I
battling, are you talking about like break dancing when you say battling
yeah
or
that is
yeah
awesome.
yeah. I
okay.
used to be a break dancer. I would be able to dance to almost everything, but I would be break dancing.
that that is one thing I haven't seen a lot of, is somebody in a chair that developed a little like more breakdancing. Like we've seen more of the choreographed other dancing, from roulettes and different things like that. But that would be cool to see. I'm all for that. If you get some free time in the future, you start posting some breakdancing videos.
Gotta figure it out.
I would check
Do more
that out.
calisthenics. Yeah. Yeah.
That is really cool.
Not sure how when you're doing your backspin how well you're getting up on your off your back, but I know Shawn and I would be like a turtle on our back. Just somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah, I could do a windmill.
I'll
That'd
just
be cooler.
change that into some wheelies. You can still you just adapt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, crazy upper body workout right there.
That would
Yeah.
be a crazy upper body workout.
Yeah, I'm
No,
always finding different hikes too, though. Going on hikes, there's a app that I like to use. I think it's the All Trails app, but
I've seen
you can actually put it to accessible trails. So
Yeah.
I'm always finding things to do here in town.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Have you been out with Gretchen and done any of the cycling? I know she's gone on the Bowflex or the Bowheads a couple times. Bowflex, Bowheads. Have you gotten to try any stuff like that?
I have. In fact,
Yeah?
we've gone to the Adaptive Sports Center in Shaver together before,
Uh-huh.
doing different things. But I haven't traveled with her to go do some stuff like that. But I'm
Nice.
always doing stuff like that on my own with Adaptive Sports. I still visit my old business mentor, my friend Randy, with Adaptive Sports, and go paddle boarding, sit skiing, do stuff like that, mountain bikes. So yeah, I'm always staying active as much as possible.
Hey, you're not just a homebody. You're getting. I
Yeah,
knew
you're
it.
doing a lot.
You're now the onion's starting to peel away, and we're getting that.
Got to
I knew
balance.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
I knew you were active. I could tell. Like you're not
Yeah.
just sitting at home working your. And I know you're working your butt off, but you have that personality of someone being very adventurous, and I think it stems from before your injury with paramedic firefighter. I mean, that's some pretty hardcore stuff, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of training, and yeah, I'm sure the gym paid off back then, and it probably pays off now. Um, and you can't live in. I have a sister up in Fresno, and there's not much to do in the city, but there's a lot to do around, right outside of Fresno, and you got a lot of territory there to have a lot of great fun out there.
Yeah, and we're kind of in the center of everything too. I feel like Fresno, you can go in either direction and there's something to do. So you want to go to the beach, it's only 2 hours. You can go the other direction. Next thing you know, you're hitting the mountains. So there's always a lot of things that there is around that surrounds Fresno. But there's a lot of good, even parks here that have really accessible trails. I feel like the accessibility here in town can be a little bit better, but they are working towards it, which is cool.
Yeah, that is cool though. And then Natalia in the chat just said that don't forget skydiving, Mia.
Yeah,
Yes,
so I have gone skydiving. That's mom right there. Shout out to mom. She's tuning in from the hospital right now. She just had a major surgery. But
Oh,
yeah,
shout out to
I've
mom
gone.
in the hospital. That's cool.
Thank you. But yeah, I have tried a lot more now than I ever did before my accident. I never skied before. I will admit that. I used to skateboard, longboard, never skied until after my accident. Skydiving, never did, but I have as a paraplegic.
Yep. Yeah. Snow skiing or water skiing?
I was
or
just
both?
gonna ask that.
Snow skiing.
No,
Snow
nice.
skiing. Okay.
So far.
I know.
So far.
Yeah, Shawn's really into it. I used to be, and then after a while, it got too cold for me as a quad. Yeah,
See,
but
now though, I've had an epiphany these last couple of years because I was doing the water skiing every summer, but the water skiing in Big Bear Lake, it would be colder than when I would go snow skiing because when I go up to the snow, I'm bundled up, super warm. I got all my snow gear on. Like when I have gone water skiing, it has been freezing a couple of the mornings. I've been out there like just freezing, and especially once you fall and then you're wet and then you're behind the boat, just getting it's
So uncomfortable too.
so cold.
Once you get cold.
But it's fun. I love doing it. But like now I've realized that the water is colder than the snow. So
and where'd you do your skydiving out of?
I did it out of by Yosemite. the
Oh,
national park.
cool.
It was in
Oh,
Mariposa, so went to the highest that we possibly can and got to overlook all of it. So it was fairly
yeah.
cool. It was I feel like we could have did it a little bit different, but that was obviously my first time. And I do it as a tandem jump, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, I had to learn a lot as to okay, how are my legs going to react when he pulls the chute and next thing you know, my legs are flying up. So yeah, it was a bit different, but now I know what to expect. I want to do that in different locations now that I have
Yeah.
experienced it,
That would
I
be
or even
beautiful. Yeah, I was same thought. I had the same thought. I'm like, what's gonna happen with my legs? So I asked to duct tape my legs to his legs. I'm like, can we at least just duct tape our ankles? I was so scared about my legs just flying up and snapping or something. And or I've heard stories when you land. So I was like, hey, please let's tape this together. But I did out in Paris. That was so boring. The view was, I mean, it's just nothing but open dead space, but it just where you did it, I think that would be much better.
oh yeah, it was awesome views. I'll definitely do it again for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. Of because that's what
And
you
did you tell mom? Did you tell mom before you
bef-
did it?
I did. Mom
Oh,
knew.
you did.
Mom knew, but mom didn't know how high up I was going.
Yeah.
I,
I had to hide that. I came home and hey, I got a tape for you to watch, and so I they were not
I'm always
happy.
doing. I'm like, Mom, you know what? You might get a heart attack one of these days because I'm always doing stuff. I like the adrenaline. I like the thrill. I like to feel alive.
There you go.
yeah, that's one that I haven't actually tried or done, and part of me wants to do it, but part of me I like to be in control. Like, if, I don't know. I feel like I would be a little bit hesitant to like, oh, on them for jumping out, on them for landing, and like I do have really bad spasms. Like I feel like even if I duct tape my legs to that person's legs, they're not going to be able to stop my leg from spasming up. Like they're just going to spasm. They're kicking up with me. They're going to be going back and forth. So I don't know.
Yeah, but the wife said the wife just put in, do it, Shawn, do it. Come
uh,
on, let's go.
yeah, but she wants no part of it. She's not going up in the plane with me. She already told me that. She's like, yeah, do it, but that's all you, bro. Do it. But yeah, no, that's really cool. That's so awesome that you've been able to do all that cool stuff and still have the want for adventure and get out there and like you said, balance. We've talked about that so many times on here. Like you have to balance life. Like you can't get so fixed on something, so stuck like doing something that you forget about the rest of your life and doing other things and enjoying yourself and so caught up in work and doing everything or so caught up in your rehab and like focused on walking and things like that again, which I know a lot happens for a lot of people. They forget to live life and do things and find things that they actually enjoy. So um, that's just that's
Yeah,
really
I definitely think it's good not to get too caught up on things like you had just said because of attachment. Attachment can lead to disappointment. And so in any aspect of life too, you can apply that to relationships, you can apply that to your life, business, whatever it is you're trying to do. The more that you attach yourself to something, you kind of keep yourself stuck. And so I think that's where balance does come into play too. Of like, okay, yeah, I can be at home reading. I'm a book nerd. I'm always in my books, always studying, but I do need to get out. I do need to go do things, or just not having attachment as to results when it comes to my own healing. Because the more I obsess over it, the more I attach myself to it, the more I keep that from me. So it's just accepting that okay, I'm all right with not having control. I'm okay with what is for me will never pass me by, and just going with the flow sometimes, but knowing what direction I'm going.
Yeah.
no, that's great. That is great. Like great way of thinking. Great advice for people to take on. Yeah, no, that's really cool. So, and then actually, I forgot. There's one more question. Leah actually just had popped in the chat here too. Again, said on days that when you can't or don't feel like going out, how do you manage your thoughts? Like if you're not feeling good, if you're having one of those rough days.
Ooh, so I'm gonna be completely honest. I had a day like this recently. I was like so overwhelmed. And I would say maybe like 2 or 3 days ago, I just started to get emotionally just overwhelmed of like, I got so much to do. But I had to find the gratitude in that. I had to find the gratitude. I get to do this. I get to get up out of my bed. I get to move. I get to go to X, Y, and Z. I get to. That's a privilege. So it does come down to changing your mindset and how you talk to yourself. We all have bad days, and it's hard. It's hard to get out of that funk sometimes. Like sometimes it's like, man, I don't want to do nothing. I just want to lay here in bed. Don't want to move. Don't even want to eat sometimes. It's okay to be there. Just don't get stuck there.
Yep.
Don't like keep yourself there. So yeah, the power of positive thinking plays a major role. I do agree that is huge, but it's not easy to be positive sometimes. Sometimes you got to be real with yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's, better than be negative or positive. Just be real with yourself. Okay, I feel like this, but I also need to get up. Like I got to get moving.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I Jesus twice. It's okay to say I'm gonna have a bad day. I'm gonna allow it, do it. Just remember that, not to stick with that bad day, and allow everything that you need to get out of whatever is bugging you, and know that tomorrow's another day.
Yeah. No,
Exactly.
that is I think the best thing you can do really. And like you said, sometimes you have to just accept that feeling of like you're having that hard day, you're having those thoughts, and it's okay to have those thoughts, but like just try not to not do things that are healthy. Like make sure you're still eating, make sure you're still doing things you need to get done for the day. Like that you're not you have still some level of balance to what you got to get done, and then you can move on and have a better time the next day or maybe the next day after that sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And it's accepting where you're at and allowing yourself to rest if you need to, but it's also keeping in mind, okay, I am creating this right now. If I feel overwhelmed and I'm not taking time to myself and I'm just go go go, then yeah, I'm gonna feel overwhelmed. But I am manifesting that into my life, and that it does come down to the power of thought and understanding that your mind and your brain are completely separate. A lot of people think they're the same, but you can actually control your mind because your mind is not your brain. So the brain is like a hard drive. It stores all this information, takes a screenshot of every experience you have and the emotion tied to that, and it stores that information. You download all of the very first experience that you have. So 95% of your day to day is subconscious programming based off of those screenshots that your brain took. So you have a different, and based off of those, it has different pattern, sequence, or combination that is stored that we call neural networks, neural pathways. And that's, you use a sequence to do a specific thing. So you have a different level of mind to drive a car, you have another level of mind to take a shower, you have a different pattern, sequence, or combination to sing a song in the shower based off of that information that your brain stored. And so you can control your mind. You are not your mind. Your mind is a projection of the brain. So when you go and how you talk to yourself when you are having a bad day, you have to be aware of, you can control those thoughts. Don't let it control you. So if I'm having a day that I feel down, okay, I'll acknowledge that. I'll accept, okay, I may need a rest. I feel overwhelmed right now. I feel overstimulated even. I'm accepting of that, but I also have to be aware that all those other negative thoughts of like, oh, it sucks. Oh, I don't want to do anything. All of those, your mind's going to play a lot of games with you. You can control that though. So I think that's the biggest um, factor is understanding, yes, the power of thought, but knowing that you can control that.
Yeah, no, that's honestly, I actually haven't really heard that broken down with that, like the mind and the brain. That was cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That was cool to hear. And then yeah, Black Olive Olivia in our chat. one of our friends locally here said, at some point you realize bad days are just a layover. Get through it, get over it, get on with it. Not to be insensitive, she said, but life is short. So like that is kind of like, yeah, and I get it. Not to be insensitive, you're not forcing somebody to get through their tough time. Like, just get over it. Like, you have to work yourself through it. You can't. There is no shortcut. You do have to kind of work through things in your mind. You have to go think, like, if you're dealing with something, you have to go actually figure out what is bothering you and how you can change that. You can't ignore it and move on. I have learned that because that's something that, like, early on in my injury, and honestly even just till recently, I just kind of coped with things a lot of times by smoking weed and forgetting about it and just being like, all right, whatever. And then when it came back up later, it was like, oh yeah, that again, crap. Like, and then kind of maybe eventually dealing with it on some level. But now I don't smoke. Well, I do smoke before bed. I do still to help me sleep. But I don't do it as an escape. I don't do it for recreation, like as a, I literally do it to help me go to sleep at night. So it's different now. And I have to actually face problems and get through them. So that's one thing that I've learned way late in life, but I would definitely hope people can learn and like that helps. But
And emotion only takes a few seconds to actually process too, and a lot of times we do keep ourselves stuck. We'll dwell on it. We'll dwell on the emotion, and next you know it's lasting longer. So it's not necessarily being emotionally avoidant of, like, I don't want to look at that emotion. The more that you don't look at it, the more you suppress it. You think, oh, if I suppress it, maybe it'll go away. I'll just go about my life. But the reality is it's just going to grow and fester and grow bigger and bigger and start projecting in unhealthy ways until you do look at it. So yes, it's super important to accept where you're at, process it, and then tell yourself, okay, I don't have to stay here, and keep moving forward. You got to go through it to get over it.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, I know you have to get to your other meeting here, so I do want to start to wrap the show. I'm going to go ahead and thank our sponsors, do our next shows, or like coming for the week. And then if you want, I'm going to leave just the last minute for you to give kind of a final thought, anything you want to share or, leave the audience. So let me just real quick go ahead and thank our sponsors again. Wanted to thank our sponsors, Mobility Professionals and Urology Professionals. Mobility Professionals is a local DME here in Southern California. So if you're anywhere in the Southern California area and you need a wheelchair, standing frame, commode, anything like that, give them a call. They can help you get everything worked out with insurance, help you take care of all of the nitty gritty stuff. And then Urology Professionals is their sister company, and they're nationwide, so they can ship your catheter supplies anywhere in the country right to your doorstep. So give them a call. All the information is down below in the description, and they can help you navigate everything, get insurance and everything like that switched over. So we really appreciate them, and they do a lot of local support here in the community. So we do appreciate them very much. And thank you to everybody in our chat that's watching and been engaging. We really appreciate all of you guys as well. For the week, later this week, Bobby is actually coming back on Thursday for Rolling Over the Hill, talking some aging with the disability. Do you guys have a specific topic for the show, the guys?
We are doing open discussion this show.
Okay.
So come on in, ask us anything. We're going to be also discussing what's been going on with us and our lives, and so a lot of fun little things to come your way. So come and join us and ask us anything you would like.
All right, yeah, you guys check in, and then we'll also be back on Tuesday again with another show. And next week is actually our we switched the weeks, and next week is actually going to be our kind of open Q&A discussion, our monthly open show. So make sure to tune in for both of those, this Thursday and Tuesday. If you guys have any questions, anything you want to discuss, talk about, share, we love to hear all that stuff. And then lastly, one quick thing I was also just going to shout out and share real quick is this weekend is Angel City Games. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to make it because I'm still having some transportation van issues trying to figure that thing out, and we have just a busy weekend. But if you are in the area, in the LA area, it's a free event. It's all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, And this is some of their information. Olivia in the chat, actually, when we had them on last week, asked about where access gets picked up. So they did now post that on their social media. So thank you, Olivia, for shouting that question out in the chat. And Alvin and Angel City took it, and they actually did share it. So make sure to check that out if you guys are interested. 3-day event. They have all kinds of sports available all 3 days. So check it out. Sign up. It's free. Um, all right. So,
Hey,
so
Shawn, can I announce something real quick?
yeah,
If
real
you
quick.
are here in the Southern California area, come join me on Saturday. I'm doing the Push to Pier event. So we meet up in Long Beach. Check us out on Triumph Foundation under the events page, and come join me. We're just gonna have some fun pushing along. So if Angel City might not be your thing, but you still want to get out there and enjoy nature and maybe the beach, we've been having a lot of fun. So come join us, meeting up at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Awesome. I'll try to get that link in there too. All right, Mia, you want to go ahead and take this last minute here, and we can close this out for the show, get you to your next meeting.
Yeah, of course, of course. Thank you guys for having me on, and thank you for all that you guys do, having these discussions with people and um, being that resource. So I do appreciate what you guys are doing. I love what you guys are doing. Always seeing you on social media, and I do want to shout out, everyone that's on my board, especially Gretchen for hooking us up and connecting us. Shout
Yeah.
out to Gretchen, everyone on my board for helping make our mission, bring that to life. Everything that we're doing for Philomath Center and all of our supporters. Again, if you guys have any questions, you can always reach out on my Instagram or even our Philomath Center Instagram, or visit us at philomathcenter.org. Thank you guys and much love.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Mia, for being with us today. We appreciate you and appreciate everybody in the chat for joining and engaging. Thank you guys all again, and we'll see you guys next time. Live to roll, everybody.
Thank you, Mia.